What tools do you use to help leaders communicate more effectively?
Great question. So I think one of the primary tools I use is a model I created called the dynamics of a reaction. And what it does is it shows how people make up stories about each other and how people miscommunicate. And the idea is that 99% of the time people are miscommunicating. Like, even though I'm answering this question right now, what I have in my head and what my intention is to communicate is not what those of you who are watching the video are actually going to be hearing. You're going to be hearing something slightly different, but it won't matter in most cases because what you'll be getting from what I'm saying will be close enough to work for both of us. But where we run into problems is if something that I say is misinterpreted in a way that is hurtful or harmful, and I'm not going to know it, and the person is going to just not say anything usually because we don't want to make a big deal about it when someone says something like that. We just kind of we're struck for a minute and we're like, why did they say that? And then in the back of our mind, we're like, why did they say that? But we don't necessarily react right away because we're being professional, right? But what happens is these miscommunications add up and they they start with these little stories like, why did they say that? But we don't want to engage in conversation about that because we don't want to make a big deal about nothing. And so then what happens is that we end up starting to be suspicious of that person and we lose trust. And as we lose trust, then we start villainizing the person. And this is all the stories in our head that we make up with that person because we haven't talked about the thing that felt weird to us in the first place. Meanwhile, the other person is usually oblivious for a long period of time. So when I talk to leaders about communication and I give them tools, a lot of the tools that I give them are tools that help them understand that what's going on underneath and just so that they can be cognizant of it and they can pick up on it when it's happening. The other tools I give them are a lot of tools to help each other, the team, people on their teams build trust with each other and understand the dynamics of communication. And then I'll go so far as to when it's time to give someone feedback, I'll provide a feedback script. And that makes it really easy for people to prepare for difficult conversations. And then the essence of all of it is that as I work with my leaders, I train them to get really clear in their head about what it is that they want to say and then to communicate 5 times as much as they think they need to. The things that I've just talked to you about are good for individual conversations and individual issues and maybe some team issues. But then there's also the inspirational messages with communication. Like, how do I really get the whole team inspired to do this? Or I'm going to be giving a speech tomorrow. How do I talk about that? So a lot of managers get really clear in their head about where they're going, but they don't articulate it in a way that really inspires the team or helps the team make connections. And so I'm trying to teach leaders that I work with how to make the connections from the vision to what everybody's dealing with every single day, and that way inspire people. So there's a lot of coaching around communication, let's just say. And I would say just that's just a lot of different examples of how we look at it. But communication is a big thing. I mean, it just permeates everywhere. And as a leader, you're doing meeting management. So there's also meeting management tools that I have for people because you're managing meetings all the time, you're communicating all the time. Pretty much everything you're doing sits in how you communicate as a leader and how you think, because how you think supports how you communicate.